Hello everyone. Yesterday I was moved in two directions by kindness. I listened in the afternoon driving in my car to fetch my son from his mother's to a series of stories of people who were acting kindly, who were doing all kinds of kind things during lockdown. One of them was a story of someone who regularly needed physiotherapy and was having that privately. Unable to have the physiotherapy, they decided to give the money they would have spent on the physiotherapy to a local florist. And they gave that to the florist with the instruction that they were to simply make up bouquets of flowers to the value of that amount every month, as they saw fit, and to just deliver them randomly in the community. To literally just knock on people's doorsteps and say, this comes from a stranger, just for you. And the story was of the extraordinary impact of that kindness on the people who received those flowers on the doorstep. Sometimes suspicion, wondering what the catch was when there was none, but also the florist's ability to stay in business and guard themselves from perhaps having to go out of business, having lost a lot of business around weddings and other events. It was just one of the stories. They were wonderful stories. And we look around us and we see goodness in people, we see kindness, we see so many friends and neighbors, if we pay attention to that, going the extra mile for each other during this time. The second thing that struck me yesterday about kindness went in quite the opposite direction. I'm part of three Facebook groups that are Methodist groups. They're not official groups, they're just three groups of Methodists from across the country who gather to chat and to chew over things and have a good moan sometimes and mostly be kind to each other. Although last night, on the back of a post someone had put on, which they thought was quite funny, and I did as well, someone that I know and respect very much found it a little offensive and said so, and disagreed with the premise of the joke, and got absolutely laid into by one person in particular who said some very derogatory things in print as a Methodist minister elsewhere in the country to someone who disagreed with them. So I commented simply to that person and said, even though it seemed quite obvious they were just being blatantly rude, even bullying, perhaps the tone of what you've written isn't what you intended, and you should maybe delete that comment. Well, what's happened after that was that I became the object of a tirade of abusive posts and very, very direct and very aggressive posts. I eventually just asked one of the administrators of the group to step in and bowed out, and then discovered that the person who'd had a go at me in the same way they had a go at someone else had blocked me, and I can no longer see anything they post on that group. No, I wasn't affected by that. I didn't feel aggrieved or angry, and I didn't sit in the evening checking my phone furiously to see what the next thing was that came up and feeling like I needed to have the last word or win or anything. And I'm quite glad that I've grown up to the point where I don't need to do that. But I think out of some vulnerability perhaps, who knows, this person lost the ability to be kind to people who simply disagreed with them, to be respectful. Why talk about kindness? Well, it is such an important thing. Kindness towards ourselves. In the last week or two, conversation after conversation I've had with people has begun with the usual, hello, how are you? And what I and many have said is okay, which isn't okay, it's just getting by, managing day to day the best I can. My family and I doing the best we can together to get by day to day. No, not surviving, something beyond surviving, but okay, and not a lot more. It's obvious that this is a time for us to be kind to ourselves, never mind kind to other people. And with that in mind, I want to just draw your attention briefly this morning to something that's happening tomorrow, which I think could be really exciting. Tomorrow, if you'd like to join online, you can go to KindFest. There's a festival of kindness being hosted on the internet. And if you click on the website, if you just Google KindFest, the website's actually teamkind.org.uk. And there's a program for a festival which tomorrow is running from 2 o'clock until 7 o'clock. And it has a whole range of speakers and music and poetry and thoughts and reflections, all of them quite brief, kicked off by Captain Tom, or Captain Sir Tom, or Sir Captain Tom, I'm not sure what the order is, just for 5 minutes, saying something about his own take on kindness. Billy Bragg will be playing a bit of music. There's some substantial names in the program, but lots of quite ordinary people, or people who are engaged on a daily basis with community kindness, who will be sharing in just little snippets. So if you want a ticket, the tickets are £5. If you want to, you can pay £10 or £15 and someone else can have a free ticket. Then they just have to roll up and say, I'd like a free ticket, and they get one. So there's even kindness built into the program and into the booking. But also the content, if you've bought a ticket, will be available for a month afterwards. So you don't have to be around tomorrow to go to KindFest. You've got a month to dip in and out of 5 hours of reflection, 5 hours of celebration, 5 hours of storytelling, and focusing on the importance of kindness in the world today. One of the things that the Christian church has at times not been very good at is being kind to people. Sometimes people have been so caught up in their desire to save people's souls from judgment, from hell, from whatever they perceive as the great threat to our eternal existence, that they've lost the ability to recognize that it is kindness that earns us a right to speak into people's lives. It's kindness that brings us close to each other, and that kindness needs to be genuine. It can't be some kind of ploy to then have the conversation we'd like to have. For those of us who think that that's an important way of being a Christian towards people who we think aren't. Also, it remains true, and I've said this many times in the church, if you're part of the church's life and elsewhere, but those of us who are followers of Jesus have no monopoly on love and kindness. We don't necessarily do them better or more than anybody else. We just we have a particular example to follow, a particular compassionate example, a particular quite direct, challenging example when we see unkindness lived out in not just relationships, but in structures and systems and politics and finances and the way we go about building society together. Kindness. I hope that today you can be kind to yourself. I hope you can be kind to the people who are around you. I hope that if someone treats you unkindly, you at least can make room for the fact that maybe something in their lives is desperate enough that they have nothing in reserve to make a better choice before you and I rush to judgment and decide that they're just not nice people. If any of us was the worst that we've ever been in our lives all the time, if that was who we were, and people had just that one moment to decide, and they decided that that was who we were, well, none of us would be in any significant relationships, would we? None of us would be trusted or loved. And we'd all be alone, mutually vulnerable. So I hope kindness is part of your life today. And if you want to bob along to KindFest tomorrow or in the month ahead, you'll find teamkind.org.uk, or just Google KindFest and see what you can find, and see if you want to have a look through the program and maybe go along and at least be blessed by stories and experiences, and just have the importance of kindness reaffirmed for all of us, no matter how kind you may be feeling, no matter how important you think it already is. Bless you. I'm off now for the weekend, back on Sunday with a reflection on Sunday's readings, and then returning next week to reflections Monday to Thursday. Cheers.